Welcome to the PrepZone Show, presented by Bevill State. I'm your host, Johnathan Bentley, joined with my co-host, Zak McCullough. And Zak, the football season's wrapping up.
Yeah, the football season's wrapping up. The regular season in college football, it's over. We crowned our state championships in high school last week. That's over. So it's kind of getting to that time of the year where it's dark and gloomy and sad without football.
It's called basketball season. And do you like basketball season?
Yeah, I enjoy basketball season, especially last basketball season when Alabama went to the Final Four and Auburn lost in the first round in the NCAA tournament. But
Alabama had the easiest road you have ever seen.
Probably. But we had to play North Carolina.
Hey, they won. Yeah. They just beat who was in front of them, right?
That's right.
And Auburn lost to who was in front of them. Yale was right in front of them. That was a rough game. All right, so look at that. We started with the tangent.
We already started
Usually
with
we
basketball.
wait a few minutes. All right, so we'll jump into some football here. So we've put finalists out for our player of the year and stuff like that. And we want to mention them again, but we're not naming the
we're
winners
not
yet.
crowning any award
that draws
winners.
It out.
We have to kind of push it out a little further so you'll be anticipating it.
Yes. So let's go over those again. So very quickly, the teams that were up for Team of the Year, which is a new thing we did, because we can do that.
We
right?
can.
Yeah. Winston County, Corner, and Lynn. So no surprises there.
Yeah, absolutely no surprises.
Yeah.
You've got
We know what they did.
Yeah, they all won 10 games in the season, went to the third round, case closed. They all could deserve it, but only can crown one.
Yeah, very tough. And you can say, hey, they tied, but that's a cop-out, right?
Of course, you can't do that.
Yeah, can't do a tie.
That's just the easy road.
That's why you have overtimes now.
Right.
So you can't do a tie.
Unless
so we'll go to overtime.
Unless you're the college football playoff selection committee, you can't take the easy road out.
Right. Yeah, they were set up. Okay, anyway, our offensive players of the week contenders, you want to name those three?
Yeah, so we've got our three offensive player of the year contenders, not offensive, but offensive. Jaden Griffin, Chris Clemens, and Spencer Unruh. Jaden Griffin, Doors running back, had a fantastic season. The same can be said for Clemens, who was with Winston County, who caught the ball, ran the ball, did a great job. Oh, and he played defense as well and was very impactful on that side of the ball. And corner Spencer Unruh, also a phenomenal season. You got some very deserving candidates.
2,000-yard runners, two of them. All right, on defense, it's a guy we've known for years. I think all these are seniors. Jasper's JoJo Odom, Oakman's Trace Cagle, and Lynn's Roberts. Always want to put. Anyway, Roberts, great season. He's a two-way player. Actually, a lot of these guys are.
That's
when
right.
It comes right down to it.
You know, when you get to kind of the lower levels, 1A, 2A, 3A, you have to play both ways because there's not enough players to go around. And so when you can thrive doing offense and defense, it really stands out.
Yeah, I talked to the Winston County basketball coach yesterday, and those guys are the exact same guys that play basketball. And they're not in any basketball shape right now.
Oh, no.
You imagine, you have football, then you got basketball is just constant running. So
right.
They get wore out easily.
Oof.
But, yeah, great athletes, all those guys. Our Coach of the Year finalists, there were four of these. Winston County Simmons, as we mentioned, 12-1, I believe.
Great season.
Yep. Trent Campbell, 11-2 at corner. Lynn's Mark Hastings, 11-2, and got to throw David Reeves in there because the improvement they made this season.
The turnaround was phenomenal for Jasper. 1-9 last year. This year 7-3. I mean, that's your Coach of the Year material is when you can turn it around, sustain success. So definitely, all these guys deserve.
I guess that Reeves had the biggest turnaround as far as wins and losses.
Absolutely, it was a phenomenal season.
All right, so we'll jump into college, that's the main thing we're going to talk about since high school's over. So we have some crazy news. So the last week we were sitting here and we're like, Alabama's in, right? They've done enough. They had just beat Auburn. And it looked like they were in there. They were 11th?
They were 11th. They were in there.
And you said that they needed Clemson to lose.
Clemson had to lose, and Alabama was in. Clemson don't roll over so easy.
Lose in the game of the day. But all right, so let's talk about the playoffs. Did the committee? Alabama obviously didn't make it. They were 11th, and I think they finished 12th in this last one.
They finished 11th.
11th again.
They were 11th again, but with the automatic qualifiers, they got knocked out.
Yes.
Go figure.
So was the committee wrong?
I'd have to say it's that they had no right answer. I mean, SMU was ranked ahead of Alabama. They go to a conference championship game while Alabama doesn't, and they lose by 3 points. How do you knock that team out? But Alabama's just so much better than SMU in the first place. And, it's strange that the SEC even has to compete with any of these other conferences. Because as I was saying before we go on the air, the number 5 team in the SEC, South Carolina, I would feel confident putting them up against any other team in the country except maybe Oregon. Wow. I mean, the SEC is so far ahead of everybody else, and it's just it's sad that the SEC even has to compete with the ACC because the ACC, their basketball power has faded a little bit. They've never been so great at football, and once again, this year the same way.
So you take out Clemson, and Florida State. Is that the only ACC teams that ever won championships? Pretty much in the recent years anyway, right?
Back when Miami was in the Big East, they won national championships. But obviously Gino Torretta doesn't play college football anymore. So they've been kind of down in the dumps since then. They've had some good seasons. This year they went 10-2. But
I think Torretta got a COVID year.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah,
he might have got his
for one
COVID
season.
eligibility year.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's more of a format problem. When they said these conference champions are going to get byes, I mean, that was a mistake. That was a terrible mistake.
Last year, if you'd let your conference championship winners get byes, it would have worked out. But this year, Boise State finished 9th in the final rankings. Arizona State finished 12th. Yet, because they won their conference, Boise State finished 3rd and Arizona State finished 4th, and they get the first round off?
Yeah, it's insane.
That doesn't make sense.
It's funny. Notre Dame can't get a bye because they're not in the conference. But they deserve byes over those teams.
They get a bye in conference championship week, technically, but
that's
still.
True. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was weird to see SMU into the playoffs. Their first year in the ACC,
and a team from Fort Worth, Texas, in the Atlantic Coast.
Yeah,
Conference.
see, they shouldn't even be there.
It's
unfair.
They
shouldn't be in that conference or in the playoff. No, I mean. I really wish. I mean, nobody mentions South Carolina. I've been saying the whole time they should be in there in front of Alabama. Well, yes, they lost to them.
South Carolina's more deserving than SMU, but South Carolina lost to Alabama and Ole Miss, who are both ahead of them.
Are they? So they're behind Ole Miss. They're in front of Ole Miss. So yeah, they were 6th in the SEC. South Carolina.
6 teams that could have
legitimately. A good team, yeah. But South Carolina beat Clemson the week before. And then you give SMU all this credit for getting close. I mean, it was baffling.
I mean, Alabama beats South Carolina, who beats Clemson, who beats SMU. Does it make sense that SMU is ahead of Alabama? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense.
So SMU's losses are BYU and Clemson, and
those aren't terrible losses. They lost both by a field goal. BYU had a 10-2 season. They finished 20th or 21st in the rankings. Credit to them. They had a good year in their second year in the Big 12. And Alabama's losses. Not that great. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, the Tennessee loss, I mean, that's at Tennessee. There's not much you can do about that. But Alabama beat 3 ranked teams. Beat Georgia, beat South Carolina, and then they beat Missouri and dismantled Missouri 34-0. SMU did not beat a ranked team. In fact, let's go down the line. Indiana, Penn State, Texas, they never beat a ranked team this year either. And they're all ahead of Alabama in the playoffs. So apparently, don't play tough schedules because you're not going to get rewarded for it.
No, I did hear Greg Burns say that.
Yes,
but
well, you're not.
It wasn't the non-conference that hurt Alabama. It was the conference.
This year, the non-conference schedule was kind of fair. Next year, even though they're playing 10 teams from power conferences, the 2 non-conference power teams are Wisconsin and Florida State. So that's not a big deal. But in the future, you've got Notre Dame, you've got Ohio State, you've got Penn State. Why play that? Why? That's just a risk. And if you're not getting rewarded for playing tough games, there's no point in going through with it. Play whatchamacallit State University. It's better off doing that.
Right. I don't know what they can do. They really need to tweak the system. First, I think they're stuck with it next year too.
Right. But then we're going to expand most likely to 14.
And they just need to rank them 1 to 14.
I don't know. If you want to get a group of 5 team in there, whatever. But most years, a group of 5 team would be ranked in the top 12. This year, Boise State was in the top 12 no matter what. We've seen Cincinnati a couple of times. They were in that range. UCF a couple of times was in that range. So I don't see why you have to have all these bells and whistles. Just give us the 12 best teams and let them play.
Yeah, what did you think when you saw Arizona State and Boise State with the byes?
I mean, you have Texas and Penn State and Notre Dame that put together really good seasons in tough conferences. And Notre Dame, they're not in a conference, but they had a fairly tough schedule. Yeah. Did lose to Northern Illinois, but who knows how that happened.
That was it. Right?
That's their only loss was to Northern Illinois. They have to play in the first round. It just doesn't compute.
Tennessee at Ohio State is a quarterfinal game. I mean
that's the only good quarterfinal
yeah.
game, really.
Indiana, yes.
You've got Indiana, Notre Dame, SMU, Penn State, and then Clemson, Texas.
This was just an extremely weak field. You're excited to get all these teams in the playoffs, and then you see what actually happened. You're like, well, maybe we should have stuck with 4.
Well, a 4-team playoff would be entertaining. You'd have
Oregon.
conference championship rematches. You'd have Oregon, Penn State in the first game, and then you'd have Georgia, Texas in the second.
Oh, see, I would prefer that.
Well, I mean, it would. You know who your champion would be.
Yeah.
Very
I mean,
easily.
what are Arizona State's? No offense, it's a great season. They were picked to finish last.
They were, yeah.
And here they are with a bye in the playoffs. Yeah,
That's an Indiana.
It's the best case scenario.
Indiana was supposed to finish 18th of 18 in the Big Ten, and they're in the playoffs, and it was a great season for them. But are they really the kind of team that's going to compete for a national championship?
Do these games excite you?
Not really. Not the first round. Second round could get interesting. And then on from that, you're going to have good teams in no matter what. But
Yes.
it doesn't excite me that much.
No, like you said, Tennessee, Ohio State, that's a good game.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, Indiana will probably be not close.
You're letting all these teams in from weak conferences when you've got, heck, Miami's a better team than SMU in my opinion. You could have them in the playoffs at least. Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Miami, they're all better than SMU because SMU didn't beat a single ranked team.
As you said.
Ole Miss blew out Georgia. That's a good win. Alabama beat Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've said, beat Missouri, beat South Carolina, went to Death Valley and blew out LSU. SMU's unproven. And now they have to go to Happy Valley? And Penn State's not that good of a team. Really, they're one of the better teams, but this is not so much
They're a top 10 team, but
they're
that's
a top
about
10
it.
team,
Yeah.
but they're not going to do much.
I would be surprised.
It doesn't really make sense to me. You've heard my manifesto.
Yeah, it's
my
like you thought this
ranting
over.
and raging.
Look
I did.
At this.
I thought for
I just
once.
let you go over here, and I just nodded. That sounds good.
You're-
that's true. Absolutely.
You're an Auburn
Nope.
fan. You're an Auburn fan. They're not even competing for a bowl game.
Ranked
this
number
year.
2 in basketball right now.
That's true, and they
Yeah.
behind Tennessee, so not even the best in the SEC.
Oh,
See,
why-
that shows that the SEC is not only great at football; they're the best there is in basketball, baseball, and softball. Just go on down the list.
Equestrian.
Yeah, well,
Very
Auburn's
good. Georgia's good too.
question.
But yeah, I was really upset because I wanted Alabama at Penn State.
Yeah, that would have been
Let's
a
just
fun
have that
game.
game. Can we not have that? Who's going to watch SMU at Penn State?
Penn State fans because they know they got
Penn
an
State,
easy win.
yes, boy, they were thrilled.
I bet
when
they
SMU
were.
made it, they had to be.
I bet they were.
But a lot of people were upset. And then you got Ole Miss loses to Kentucky. Good grief. Just beat Kentucky and you're fine.
But here's the thing. I can't feel too bad for Alabama because you lost by 3 touchdowns to Oklahoma.
It was the worst performance of the year.
If you'd have just beat Oklahoma, or heck, lost close, maybe. If you beat Oklahoma, then you're in the playoffs. You play for a conference championship against Texas. The way Texas played Saturday, Alabama's probably your SEC champion, ranked second right now in the playoffs with a bye. But
It would have been
you get
nice.
dismantled and you're not in the playoffs. It's
Everything changed.
you can't hang your head too much. That's why we expanded, so that you'd be arguing about 12 and 13
Instead of
teams
5.
that really aren't going to be competing for a national championship. Whereas last year you had really 7 teams that could have made the playoffs.
Some were very upset. Yes.
Ohio State went 11-1. Florida State went 13-0. Georgia went 12-1. They didn't get
All
to go to the
left out.
playoffs.
Yeah, we could have had a different playoffs last year. So what was your reaction when you saw, I guess after church, you saw that SMU made it?
This. Because I wasn't very hopeful because I really distrust the committee.
It's the committee's fault.
They're too
Absolutely.
connected with the University of Michigan and sign stealing, and I'm joking there. I'm still mad at Michigan for stealing signs last year and winning a cheap national championship, but it just I was disappointed. I wasn't really going into it with too many expectations, but hearing all the pundits talk about how much better Alabama was got my hopes up just enough for them to get crushed.
Oh, so watching that Clemson game. So if you don't know, Clemson was up 17.
They
in
were
the
up
fourth.
31-14 in the fourth quarter.
Below it is 31-all. They tied it with a few seconds left, and then they give up a return about 40 yards.
A 41-yard kick return. Clemson had about 7 seconds. They throw a dart over the middle, caught down at the 38-yard line, kick a 56-yard field goal to win it.
Oh, what was your reaction on that one? No, that's why.
Just,
I mean, yeah, that field goal. How clutch was this? That field goal doesn't go through. And look at everything that changed off that kick. That was a clutch.
SMU had
kick.
all the momentum in the world.
They were going to win in overtime.
They could have won it. They probably would have won it in overtime. And, oh well.
Yeah. That was the best game of the day, easily. All right, so what tweaks need to be made, do you think?
There's really not much tweaks you can make besides the fact, automatic buys should not be in there for winning a conference championship. You should value strength of schedule a little more. And, there's really not much you could say because SMU was 11-1. Alabama was 9-3. So just looking at the records, it looked like SMU was better. And I reckon the committee just kind of fell into that easy little trap of looking at the records.
Well, they didn't have to answer to Saban.
That's true.
If he was there.
Yeah, Saban was on the ESPN show as an analyst.
Yeah, he was a little angry.
He was upset.
He was agitated a little
he was
about
upset.
that. Yeah, he didn't like that either.
Glad he's still sticking with Alabama.
Yeah, I think they used it as a way to stick it to Bama. I really do. I think they had a chance to do it, and they always didn't.
This is the third straight year that Alabama is either the last team to get in or the first team to be left out of the playoffs. Last year, Alabama made it very controversial. Year before that, wasn't as controversial that they got left out. So, kind of a lot of stress on Selection Sunday for Alabama.
Yeah, hopefully it's just a one-year deal.
Maybe.
All right, so let's pick these garbage games we have that's coming up. I guess these are pretty much straightforward, I think, except maybe this last one. So these are the playoff games, teams that didn't get a bye.
Right.
So we got Indiana at Notre Dame.
Indiana.
We might want to mention these later.
That's
are these
true.
on your picks?
No, they're not.
Okay,
good. My
good.
picks are a little different
good.
this week. It's going to be unconventional, and you don't know anything
Division
about
2.
it.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, right. First game, Indiana at Notre Dame. Like I said, great season for Indiana. They went 11-1 in Kurt Cignetti's first year. It's great, but it's time to come to reality. You're not going to go into South Bend to beat Notre Dame. Give me Notre Dame by 30. Yeah. It's not going to be close.
And Notre Dame is actually pretty good.
Notre Dame's really good. How in the world they lost to Northern Illinois second game of the year, I have no earthly idea.
When that happened, they were probably like, uh-oh, can we have a winning season?
Everybody said that they were done. And now they're in the playoffs hosting a game.
And pretty good. Yeah, a very good team. All right, so I agree. I think Notre Dame will have no trouble there. Now the game of the week, SMU at Penn State.
This could be Alabama at Penn State, and then it would be the game of the week by far.
Oh boy, yeah, I know.
But now SMU is going to go to Happy Valley and get absolutely trounced. It won't be close.
Do you want them to get trounced?
I really would like to see that, but it might make me feel better if SMU were to actually look like they deserve to be in it. So,
they're okay, but at Penn State, that's something
they went
not
11-2. They went 11-2. They deserve some credit, but the ACC is the ACC, and it's not very strong. Your champion was a Clemson team that got dismantled by Georgia, lost to South Carolina. Both teams Alabama beat, so SMU is going to get beat bad.
Then you got Clemson at Texas.
Clemson at Texas. This might be the mismatch of the whole playoff because you have a Texas team that's undefeated except for playing Georgia, which they lost to twice. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Clemson, who played Georgia, got beat by 30. Clemson, they earned the playoff spot under this format by winning their conference. But, oh well. Too bad for them. Texas is going to win very big here.
So who will Texas play after that?
Texas will be playing Arizona State.
Oh,
such a great quarterfinal matchup.
Clemson and then Arizona State.
Then it
gets tough.
Might get tough.
Hopefully. And the last one we're going to mention here, Tennessee at Ohio State. I think it's the best one.
It is. Ohio State, they beat a couple of playoff teams in Indiana and Penn State. But the way they played against Michigan, I don't see if there's a team in the country they could beat. Now, I'm sure they're going to be improved from that. But I figure they won't have any momentum. You got Tennessee coming up here, their first playoff game ever. They haven't competed in a championship setting like this since the 90s. Ohio State's used to it, take it for granted maybe. I think Tennessee goes into Columbus and wins.
Whoa, it's a big upset. I picked Ohio State just because it's at home, but yeah, they haven't impressed me all year. Nebraska had them on the ropes, but it's been like that a lot. Then they drubbed Indiana, which tells you all you need to know about Indiana. And then they have trouble with the Michigan. This could really. They're not playing great. It's very evenly matched. Tennessee's had their moments this year too.
The last time Ohio State played, They got into a fight after the game because Michigan tried to plant a flag in an artificial turf field, which is physically impossible. That shows you all you need to know about this Ohio State team. They're not in the right mindset, in my opinion. Now,
Yes.
you say they're going to win, and they might. They might.
Well,
It is
I
at
mean,
home.
they were a pretty decent-sized favorite. 7
They are.
points
They're
or
a handy
something.
favorite.
7.5.
I don't understand
I don't get it
where the
either.
gamblers are getting that from, but I reckon we will find out.
Yes, soon enough. All right, so we're going to talk about the Alabama bowl game. Had you ever heard of the ReliaQuest Bowl?
I had heard of it because it was the first game that Mississippi State played after their head coach Mike Leach passed away
Okay,
a couple years ago.
Mhm.
And you told me before the show, so I'm kind of stealing your information here. Go ahead and give you credit for it. This used to be the Outback Bowl, but
Yes.
it's now dropped the bowl name and just went with the sponsor ReliaQuest.
Yay.
And Alabama, the first team out of the playoffs, gets Michigan, a rematch from last year's Rose Bowl.
Yeah, this is not quite the same teams. Michigan's 7-5, and it took the Ohio State upset to get to this point.
Get to this point, so
And Alabama is 9-3.
right.
So how excited are you for this one?
I reckon I'm a little more excited just because it is Michigan.
Really?
So time to exact some revenge, considering that Michigan ended Alabama's season last year.
Cheating.
Yes, did steal some signs. I
Allegedly.
doubt they have the signs stolen this year, though. That's why they're 7-5. So I reckon the general fan isn't too terribly excited about this, but
They aren't.
it's a good opportunity to kind of show the committee, hey, you're wrong. And an interesting little undercurrent here, the chairman of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is Ward Manuel. He is the Michigan athletic director.
Don't get me started on Ward Manuel. I've never heard of the name till just now, but don't get me started.
Michigan stealing signs and all that. Maybe Alabama will be generally rooted for because Michigan's not that popular either.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to root for Alabama.
I'm
I
sure
think,
it is.
I mean, in the country, probably.
Right. Well, for you especially as an Auburn
Yeah.
fan, of course I can't blame you. You went to Auburn. I can't fault you too bad.
But I have respect for Alabama. I just don't want them to win it. Is that asking too much?
I mean, I don't want.
But I
Auburn
did
to
want
win
them to play Penn State. I think that would have been a good game.
It would
have
have
been
been.
an interesting game.
For a college football fan, you'd rather see Alabama
Yes.
Penn State than SMU.
And I mean, it would have been everybody would have been watching it. The networks killed themselves, or
I
ESPN, I
know
guess,
it.
by putting this SMU Penn State. It's just terrible.
Who knows? It might turn out to be the greatest game. It could go into 100 overtimes, or maybe more realistically 8 or 9. So who knows? But we'll find out. This is the trial run of the 12-team playoff. We'll find out what works, what doesn't, and hopefully it'll be corrected in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely a mess. But I mean, a lot of things that start are a mess when they start. First year.
The first year, it's always kind of rough. The first year, the 4-team playoff was really strange because you've got an Ohio State team that at the beginning of October is ranked 22nd. Well, they cruise all the way in with a third-string quarterback, beat Wisconsin 59-0 in the bowl game, hop a TCU team that everybody had said was guaranteed in the playoffs, and roll on to win the national championship. People were probably shocked at that.
That was a shocker. Third string. All right, so let's get to Zach's picks this week.
And not traditional picks. I decided for a little surprise. I want to know, in your opinion, who will be playing in the national championship game and who will win it.
Oh, wow.
That's the pick for this week. Think about it.
I'm going to say Texas
Texas.
and Tennessee. Can they play for the championship?
They could not play for the championship. They would have to meet up in the.
Okay, that's your semifinal
They would
game.
play in a semifinal.
All right, so I guess I'll go.
Obviously, you're not prepared for this question.
No,
I
wait.
should
No,
have
I'm going
prepared
to
you
pick
ahead
Notre
of time.
Dame. There you go.
You're going to say Notre Dame wins
Notre
the national
Dame. No,
championship.
they play for it and
Oh,
they
okay.
lose. Yes. Can they play Texas?
Can Notre Dame play Texas? The answer is yes.
Yes. Okay. There you go. Notre Dame, Texas.
And Texas beats Notre Dame.
Yes.
I did not think we would agree on the national champion.
You
but
picked
we
Texas?
do. I picked
Wow.
Texas to beat Georgia. I think Texas and Georgia play the
Georgia,
third
good
time
chance
this
to get through.
season. And Georgia, we don't know about their quarterback situation. Their quarterback, Carson Beck, was rearing his arm back to throw a Hail Mary pass, and he got nailed. Don't know how long he's going to be out, if he'll play in the playoffs, if he'll be at 100%.
I don't think so.
Georgia's starting punter messed his leg up trying to make a tackle. He's done for this season. So I think Georgia has somewhat of an easy path to the championship game, but a motivated Texas team would beat them. So give me the hook 'em horns.
Wow. That's what happens when a punter tries to play football.
When a punter tries to play football,
Things go badly.
unless it's Oakman High School where Trace Cagle's your punter.
Yeah. Well, now he can make a tackle.
He will
Yes.
absolutely tackle you.
Yes. He's one of the best around here. But, yeah, so Texas, yeah, Georgia, I think Georgia beat them again.
Really?
Seems like they have their number.
Well-
Even with, what's the backup's name? I know you know the name.
Would be, gosh, I'm unprepared for
Anyway,
this question.
the Georgia backup is actually, pretty good.
He
He came
played
in
well.
and won the game.
Gunnar Stockton. It took me a
Yeah,
second.
Yes.
I'm still thinking about SMU.
But, yeah, we've talked
We have talked a lot about SMU. Need to give
SMU's in
Gunnar
the-
Stockton some love.
I remember going to watch SMU in the Birmingham Bowl against Pitt
Really?
before. Yes. So is that your pick?
That's
was
my
our
pick.
picks?
That's our picks. That's all it is. Kind of short,
One game.
simple, and sweet.
Yes.
One game, and we have no clue if it'll even happen.
Yeah. Notre Dame in the championship would be wild, All right, so wow, that wraps up our show. It's a short
Alrighty.
one for us.
Kind of a short one
we
for
didn't,
us.
We had more tangents.
We should have. Of course,
Yeah.
we did have a pretty good sized one.
Yeah, we
but
just start off on one. Yeah, we talked enough about SMU for the day. So we'll be back when all these games are over and somebody's hoisting a national championship trophy.
won't be Alabama.
Indiana.
Ooh.
I've changed my pick. It's Indiana now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we'll be back after that, and we'll have a discussion on Alabama's big bowl win, too. They got to get to 10 wins at least.
I would
right?
hope hadn't not won 10 wins in a season since 07.
Yeah. Good
I was
grief.
not alive in
Wow.
07.
Saban's first year,
That was
it?
his very first year.
Incredible.
He went 7-6.
Yeah, DeBoer needs to start with 10
Start with
wins.
a 10-win
Yes.
season.
It's a good start.
Good start. Yeah. You inherited a tough situation. Get to recruiting, work the transfer portal, build
It'll be
up for
fine.
next season.
It will be
You
fine.
know, Alabama's lost a good number of players to the transfer portal so far. But before you freak out, just realize if these were really the program building players that we think they are, Alabama would have won a national championship or so at that time. If you lose players that let you lose by Oklahoma by 3 touchdowns, it's not that bad of a loss.
Right.
As long as Ryan Williams stays,
It will be
I'm
an
happy.
improvement. Yeah, I think he'll be around for at least another year. All right, so that wraps up our show. We want to thank Bevill State for sponsoring and Jake for producing, and we'll see you next month.